Hello everyone and welcome to Who's He on the TV. And on this short episode I'll be looking at Season 2 of Fallout, which has recently finished airing on Prime. I really enjoyed Season 1 of Fallout and I was eager to see where Season 2 would take the story. Well, all I can say is it kind of advanced the plot and the characters, and while I certainly enjoyed this season as much as the first, I couldn't help feel that it was slightly treading water somewhat. The season basically picks up where the previous one ended. Lucy is looking for her father Hank, who has found New Vegas. The Ghoul / Cooper Howard is still looking for his wife and child, and Maximus has risen through the ranks of the Brotherhood of Steel after he gave them the gift of cold fusion at the end of the last season. We also have the introduction of some other major players. We have Robert House, the owner of a pre-war company, Robco, who was controlling events before, during and after the war. Other factions of the Brotherhood of Steel make an appearance, with Quintus trying to unite them under his banner, and cold fusion of course. We have the introduction of the Legion and more of the new California Republic. Much was made of the appearance of the Legion before this season aired, mainly down to the fact that Macaulay Culkin was one of their number, but his appearance this season, well at the least, was nothing more than a glorified cameo. The other two major things to appear this season were Deathclaws, who in the TV version of Fallout have been around a lot longer than anyone realised, and of course New Vegas itself. We also have the subplot of Lucy's brother Norm, who attempts to take over leadership of Vault 31 before leading them to the surface. He discovers another mystery whilst investigating an old Vault-Tec building, FEV, or Forced Evolutionary Virus. Thaddeus returns, who may or may not be turning into a ghoul, and Hank McClane as we find out why he was heading to New Vegas at the end of the last season. Lastly, we have a major reveal of the Enclave, who appears to have been calling the shots on the end of civilization and their plans to rebuild it in their way. Obviously, there is more to this than what I've mentioned so far. You know, big tech companies causing the end of the world and controlling the population, which sounds, well, far too much like what is happening in the real world right now. However, the reason I keep watching this is the performances of the three main leads, Walton Goggins, Ella Purnell and Aaron Moten. They are the glue that really holds this together for me. Goggins and Purnell bounce off each other extremely well, and while their characters don't really evolve too much, we see Lucy McClane beginning to get enjoyment out of shooting things, while humanity starts to creep back into the Ghoul's personality once again, and also more of his backstory as to how he went from film star to a children's entertainer. And as for Maximus, well, he starts to realise that the person he wants to be doesn't necessarily align with the Brotherhood. But while all this world building is fine, there was something, well, lacking. Firstly, one of the best things about Season 1 was the dynamic between characters and the sort of little double acts that were built, such as Lucy and the Ghoul and Maximus and Thaddeus. But this season that changed, and I will focus on Lucy and the Ghoul to illustrate. This season starts them both still travelling together, and we do see that their dynamic had started to evolve for the better. Well, Lucy's chipper attitude and naivety was still getting on the Ghoul's nerves. He nevertheless rescued her from the clutches of the Legion, even after she left him to fend for himself after a rad scorpion attack earlier in the season. And he was starting to warm to her and her to him. However, come the middle of this season, the Ghoul had betrayed her to her father Hank, who had promised him where to find his wife and daughter. Now, at this point, we see that the Ghoul took absolutely no pleasure at doing this, while Lucy was visibly upset at his betrayal, as she more or less correctly believed that they were becoming friends. It was this scene, while very well acted by Ella Purnell and Walton Goggins, it changed the season slightly for the worse, as the plot demanded that they be split up. Now, for me, that was a mistake. The pair of them are the beating heart of the Fallout TV series, and while they briefly reconnect in the last episode before going their separate ways again. But secondly, This season just felt like pure setup for a third season. The Legion are now marching on New Vegas. The new California Republic troops have entered New Vegas to defend it. Hank McClane's mind control devices have been spread over the Commonwealth. The Ghoul must now head off to Colorado to find his wife and daughter. And the Brotherhood are now at war with each other. And all this happened in the last episode. While it whets the appetite, why cram all of this into the last 15 or 20 minutes of the season? Not all characters' journeys end or midpoint of their respective quests have to coincide together. It just felt that more time was spent on the spectacle of post-apocalyptic America rather than, well, pacing the actual plot a bit better. Obviously, Fallout is based on the computer game, with the series cherry-picking lore, factions and characters from the games. However, this is a double-edged sword. Fans of the game are going to be drawn to the show, as any fan of any computer game would be if a film or TV show was made about their favourite game. But this is where the problems start. Die-hard fans of Fallout are never going to be entirely happy. There are plenty of reviews out there for this season that are, well, sort of very negative, but in the main they're just critiquing aspects of the game which they believe the showrunners have just got wrong. For example, this season borrows heavily from the game Fallout New Vegas. Now, I haven't actually played that iteration of Fallout, as my own experience of Fallout is playing Fallout 4. And that is only because I got it for free as part of my PlayStation subscription. So while I was certainly aware of Fallout New Vegas, I can accept the fact that when you play a game, it will not necessarily translate well to the screen. And some fans, well, they can't accept that. They've got the Legion wrong. Robert House doesn't end up like that in the game. That model of power armour is wrong in the timeline, so on and so on. But what would Fallout the TV series be like if it slavishly followed the game? Would audiences not familiar with the game be entertained by watching the lead character performing side quests for characters that don't advance the plot? Or perhaps watching the lead character collecting junk and upgrading their armour and weapons? Well, I think the answer is, no, they wouldn't. Shows like Fallout have to appeal to a wider audience, not just a hardcore group of gaming fans. Look, for fans, the only perfect Fallout TV series exists in their minds. I should know. I'm a Doctor Who fan, and we could get pretty angry at minor stuff that we think breaks canon or lore. It's a fairly pointless exercise, and there are surely more important injustices to get worked up about. So, in the words of Mystery Science Theatre 3000, just repeat to yourself, it's just a show, I should really just relax. See you next time.